Okay, I have combined a couple of sections together here because it just didn't make sense to me to talk about it like almost at the end of the next chapter. So I'm going to include a couple of things in one section here. So looking at evidence for evolution in Darwin's time came from several different sources. Fossils, they provide evidence of evolution in that you can look and see that here's what what organisms may have once looked like in the past. And fossils are going to be most of the time you're going to be able to look at it and go, okay, here are the oldest layers because they were the deepest, and then younger ones up from there. The study of geography provides evidence for evolution as well. Island species most closely resemble the nearest mainland species that are out there. Populations can show variation from one island to another. So the Galapagos Islands are a good example of this occurring. Embryology, that's going to provide evidence of evolution. What the evolutionists end up going for on that is the further along in embryonic development that they look like, the closer the relation they would be. So you have identical larvae, different adult body forms, similar embryos, and a diverse organisms. So that's what I was talking about. Once again, the longer they go looking alike in their development, the closer relation evolutionists would say they would be. So the study of anatomy provides evidence of evolution. You have what are known as homologous structures, which are structures that are similar in structure but may perform a different function. They came from the same origins, though. Homologous structures are evidence of a common ancestor. So if you look at the hand of the human, the mole foot, and the bat wing, all of those have the same bone structure involved in them, and those bones are highlighted there in this image. Another example is the analogous structures. Analogous structures have the same function but arose from a different structure. And it shows evidence of not having a common ancestor. So fly, or a close common ancestor. A fly wing and a bat wing are examples of that. We'll come back to that because when we talk about the 11.6 section that I've included here, we'll talk about a couple of different types of evolution, and I will refer back to this is what gives rise to this type of a structure, and this is what gives rise to that type of a structure. So structural patterns are clues for the history of a species. Another thing would be a vestigial structure. They are remnants of organs or structures that had a function in early ancestors, but nowadays serve little or no function at all. So ostrich wing is an example of a vestigial structure. A human appendix is an example of a vestigial structure, human tailbone, things like that. So, like I said, 11.6, we're going to look at some things that tie into what we were already talking about. So, natural selection can have direction. The effect of natural selection add up over time. So, you can see here in this picture, so let's say green, you had equal number of stuff, and for whatever reason green ended up being the best suited for that environment. As time goes on, you're going to start to see more and more green in that population. So convergent evolution describes evolution towards similar traits in unrelated species. This is what gives rise to analogous structures that we had just talked about a few moments ago. So it's saying that distantly related individuals develop similarities to one another because of the environment that they're in. So like the bat wing and the insect wing, they both allow the individual to fly, but you can tell they came from different tissue and different structures. Divergent evolution is going to be where you end up having evolution towards different traits in closely related species. So this is what would give rise to homologous structures. So it's saying that the organism is going to branch out or split from one another, and it's going to continue to divide because of the environments that they're in. They're going to develop adaptations to be best suited for those environments. So species can shape each other over time. Two species or more can evolve together through coevolution. That's going to be evolutionary patterns where they're both become connected. An example of this would be like the insects being able to feed off of a flower. So the development of flowers and then the insects being able to get food from that, those two developing together would be considered coevolution. So species evolve in response to changes in each other. Coevolution can occur in beneficial relationships. So right there is an example of coevolution. It's a thorn that the insect is able to live in. Coevolution can occur in competitive relationships as well, sometimes called evolutionary. So you end up with the crab's natural predator of that snail, and it starts to get spines to protect itself from the crab in response of natural selection, favors the snails with even thicker shells and spines, so they start to grow that way because of what their predator was doing to them. So species can become extinct. Extinction is the elimination of a species from the earth. You have background extinction, which occurs continuously at a very low rate. It's just the everyday extinction. Then you have mass extinction as well, which is going to be where some catastrophe is going to happen and wipe out a lot of life forms at one time. So with the background extinction, it's going to occur roughly at the same rate as speciation, which is the creation of new species. And it usually affects a few species in a small area and can be caused by local changes in the environment. So they occur roughly, I don't know why it's doing the same slide again, sorry. Mass extinctions, like I said, are rare but much more intense. They destroy many species at a global level and thought to be caused by catastrophic events. At least 5 mass extinctions have happened in the last 600 million years. So speciation often occurs in patterns. A pattern of punctuated equilibrium exists in the fossil record. What punctuated equilibrium says is no change, no change, no change, and then boom, rapid change. And then no change, no change, no change, and then rapid change. So this theory was proposed by Eldridge and Gould in 1972. So speciation occur suddenly in the geological time, followed by long periods of little evolutionary change. This revised Darwin's idea that species arose through gradual transformation. There is the idea of gradualism, where it's saying it's just a slow, steady change over a long period of time. So many species evolve from one species during what's known as adaptive radiation, which is also divergent evolution. So ancestral species diverse into many descendant species. Descendant species usually are adapted to a wide range of environments. Okay, so this next part is talking about single-celled organisms that came together to, or the theory of single-celled organisms that have come together to become one organism. So the oldest known fossils are a group of marine cyanobacteria, which are prokaryotic cells, and they helped add oxygen to the atmosphere, and they ended up depositing different minerals into the ecosystem. Fossils like the stromatolites provide evidence of early colonies of life. That's what you see there. Those little like weird shaped things are the stromatolites. Eukaryotic cells may have evolved through endosymbiosis. Endosymbiosis, once again, is a relationship in which one organism lives within the body of another. Mitochondria and chloroplasts may have developed through endosymbiosis. So this is a theory saying that you had this cell that had a nucleus and things like that, but this bacterium that was ended up being the mitochondria came in and started to help that cell out. The evolution of sexual reproduction led to increased genetic diversity. So genetic variation is an advantage of sexual reproduction. Reproduction may have led to the evolution of multicellular life. So that is the end of the notes for this section.